Alrighty, so today I was thinking that I'll keep solving problems, but I want to do some more problems that are sort of endgame related. So we're starting off with just the endgame category on Lichess. Chessable's down right now, but I was kind of leaning towards Lichess anyway, so I don't really mind. Besides, Chessable looks like a Facebook game from like 2009, despite 3 years of taking member subscriptions, so I feel like supporting Lichess at the moment. So what do we have here? This one, technically an endgame, but these are all tactics puzzles too, so we might not even see endgame themes. I kind of want to do this to get some inspiration for an upcoming series that I'm going to do. The upcoming series is about creating a endgame repertoire. I don't think anyone has ever done something like that, but basically I want to treat endgames as if they were openings and suggest an endgame repertoire for everyone. So hope you guys like it, and I'm just doing this to kind of stimulate my brain. I think rook c1, rook d1, queen c2 wins, because they have to take it and then we take back. I don't see any checks or any problems, so yeah. And then here I can take and play queen c1, I'm pretty sure. I could also play queen b1 and force them to take it still, I'm pretty sure. I guess if I play queen b1, yeah, they have no way to protect the rook. Alright. Easy dub. 10 rating points that don't mean anything. I used to be like 2,700 on this site, but I only really do the puzzle of the day, so every time I get it wrong, I lose like 40 points, and every time I get it right, I get like 0 or 1, so it's kind of been downhill from here. Waking up first thing in the morning and doing the puzzle of the day is not like super recommended if you like your rating the way it is. So what do we have here? Opposite colored bishops. Looks like it could be rook c7. If they play king d8, then we should be able to play something like rook a7. That one's a bishop. I could probably sack something for this pawn after that and retain some advantage with my own pawns. But they're not going to play king d8 or king e8, which would allow rook c8. They will probably play king d6, so that looks critical to me. What's the deal? Could just take the pawn on f7, but then they'll try b3. I'm not sure I really want to allow that. It could also be like rook c7, king d6, rook c8, because they can't play bishop d5, and they'd really like to. Like, if they play bishop b7, there's rook d8 check, and that wins the rook on d2. And even if they choose like d, none of the above, and then just play b3, I can take the bishop on a8. They play b2, rook d8 check, move the king, rook takes d2, b1 queen. I guess that's not good. So let's say they play b3. Is that like a serious thing? No, it's not. Rook d8's happening. So at any rate, I don't see anything more interesting than this. So we could always play that safely. Rook c7, I'm sorry, rook c8 looks like the name of the game here. Yeah. Easy money. Okay, pawn endgame. Easy to do wrong if you're playing too quickly. With pawn endgames in particular, it's almost always possible to, with sufficient analysis, realistically arrive at whether it should be a win, a draw, or a loss. So I feel some obligation to do so. Well, luckily, all of their pawns that could promote are within the square. You guys might know the square rule, where if a pawn's promoting, you draw a square that extends to the end of the board, like this one. That's a triangle. I know my geometry, but this is a square. And if the king can get in this square, then they can stop the pawn. That's kind of the deal. So if they played like pawn takes f4, it would be my move, and I would have to get in the square. But as you can see, I'm already in it. So if I ever need to, in an emergency, go win this pawn, I can. It's a little more concerning about these faraway pawns, but this is the pawn that's really troubling at the moment, this e5 pawn. So I kind of feel like I don't care if they start pushing it. So it's logical to consider like g5. Like g5 takes, then h5 takes, f5. And if they try to run back and stop the pawn, since they're in the square, it doesn't quite work, because then I can play c6, c7, c8. So I think it's g5. And this is the same deal, like I should go here and pass that one. Okay, another easy puzzle. This looks like I could play knight f5 safely. That doesn't mean it's right, but you know, I can do it. I highly doubt that there's a winning move, but that's not knight f5, because playing anything slow like rook f7, bishop f7, and then, you know, going from there, it's a hard sell. Like, let's say I play knight f5, king h5, knight d6, bishop e6, knight takes b7. Am I really winning when they have 3 against 1 on the king side and 4 against 3 on the queen side, and I haven't even begun pushing? It doesn't look like a winning position, even though I do win a pawn with that sequence. So probably knight f5 is right. King h5 is the next move, because if they play bishop takes, there's rook takes f7. And with the rook against bishop, I feel much better. And then I could play g4, and if they play king takes g4, then there's knight h6, and that wins the rook for free. And they don't have any other legal moves, so actually that's the answer. And it's not even complicated. I'm curious to see if any of these actually involve some like endgame technique and not just calculate-y type stuff. Could take this g3 pawn, but they're playing f7. Could play g5, but then after king g4, I don't think we're controlling the light squares enough to win. But I've been wrong before. Let me see. I don't know. It looks like they're playing h4 and then king h3. Not that clear. g5, king g4, king g6. Looks interesting. But then they can play f7 check, king g7 looks like the only move, and at least they have king takes g5. So maybe come back to that later. Rook e4 check, g4 is the only move. And then g5 wins the game. Okay, that was actually a very easy one that I didn't think about. Just mate and 2. Almost embarrassing to be that slow on the draw, but it's okay. I want to put my bishop on e6. Yes, big pawn. Just kidding. It doesn't actually look that good on e6. It would look funny. So we have bishop against rook. It's not great. A lot of the time, the winning technique in such positions involves moving your rook around a bunch of times, eventually taking the bishop in order to create a pass pawn or win material. Because once your king gets in, you can start taking all the pawns. So maybe positions like this would be good for my endgame repertoire series that I'm going to work on. Something like this where it's like a little bit more interesting. Anyway, they're kind of a long way from sacking the rook for the bishop. Like rook e3, rook c3, rook takes c4. And that's all just to try to win these center pawns and advance the c-pawn. They could also try rook a8, rook takes a4, but I don't have to take it. If I did, they'd play king c4, and it's like the same position. So that might be a lesser version of the same. So whatever they want to do, it's probably taking a long time. In the meanwhile, f6 and h6 are weak, so maybe I could give up the f-pawn to play king h4, king h5, king g6, king takes f6. It looks like a big ask, though. Like, the a-pawn is an asset, potentially. But since our king's so far away, we're not really pushing it, as far as I can tell. Yeah, it's very far away. So I think here we really do have to win these pawns on the king side. So like king h4, rook e3, king h5, rook takes f3, king g6, rook f4 maybe, king takes f6. If they play rook takes g4, we have king e6, we should be fine. Because we're pushing the f-pawn quite quickly. If they play rook takes c4, pawn takes e4, king takes c4, it's the same thing. So I'm fairly convinced that it's king h4. Alright, I probably can't suffer this rook to live. I should probably take it. Takes, king g6, c4, king f6, c3, king e6. Hold on, yeah. Takes, king e6. Well, I don't think I can permit it. Just looks kind of, maybe I need to do something faster, like bishop takes, king h6, c4, g5, c3, g6, c2, g7, c1, g8, queen. And then we both have queens. And if they take, I gain a tempo to play f6, c3, f7, c2, f8, c1, and then I'm in the driver's seat of a queen endgame. I don't think I really have a choice here. I don't like it when puzzles end like this. The variation I was just thinking is, oh wait, the a-pawn is running, so maybe that's more clear. a5, c4, a6, c3, a7, c2, a8, c1. Actually, that's a pretty similar situation to what I was just describing. It would be something like this in the end. They're threatening mate on g5, so we should probably check them a lot. It's winning for white with precise play. When I check them a lot, I want them to go on the c-file so I can trade queens. And if they don't, I should be able to try to capture these pawns or obstruct their path to g5 successfully. Should be a way. Anyway, you don't need to see all that, so I actually rescind my negative comment about ending the puzzle here. Playing it out would be a little bit much. So I could hit this rook. This looks like it came from a Spanish opening with this pawn structure here. I don't think it makes sense to try to win these queenside pawns. Like we could, right? We could go nom, and take them all. But in the meanwhile, they're going to take these pawns, and then these pawns will be in danger, and it's like, what did I do all that for? So I expect that the move should be like king f3. So that when they play rook h4, I can probably play like rook g5, rook h2, rook g7, something like that. But I don't really want to give up this h-pawn, so it might be something like king f3, rook h4, h3. Rook h5. And then rook g7 check in order to take the stuff. Lord Sakuja, when's the hot tub stream? Good question. Maybe in 2 weeks. I think that would be probably taking a page out of somebody else's book. Ooh, I got it wrong. That's too bad. So, probably throw this check first. Okay, so what could the other idea be? I don't think I'm trapping this rook, like, by any stretch of the imagination. Like, h3, rook g2, king f3, rook g1. Just not really interesting. I don't see why it should be like king f2. It's tempting to play something like e5, but I don't know what it accomplishes. So it's definitely not that. Oh, maybe g3 to trap the rook. That's silly, because I've even done something like this over the board. Alright, so I had to trap the rook. And I missed it. Oh well. This is fine. This looks like rook g7, king g7, queen f6, king h7, and then something. I'm not sure. So rook takes, king takes, queen f6, king h7. I only have really queen f5 here. So I'm not that convinced. It's probably rook f6. They don't have any meaningful checks. Rook f6, pawn takes queen h6 is mate. So rook f6, do they even have a move? If they play king h7, then there's rook g7. That just wins. Yeah, I think this is probably the only thing. And I should probably take their queen. Rook g7. After rook g7, they could sack their queen anyway. Like, queen e1, queen takes e1, king takes g7. So, it looks pretty similar. I don't know, sometimes with puzzles like this, they get really, like, anal about what the right move is. So I'm hesitant to just take the queen, even though that's winning. After rook g7, what kind of counterplay do they even have? King takes, queen h6, king g8, queen g5. Yeah, I guess we're not mating, so we should just take this. Okay. Well, this looks like I'm promoting something. They have only one way to get back to stop this pawn. So naturally, I'm going to put my king on d3 so that I can never promote. Just kidding. D4, bishop to g6. D3 looks quite convincing. D4, bishop f7. Yeah, I think it's just d4. Maybe d4, bishop f3. No, just This is it. Bishop f6 wins a piece. Like a whole rook. Pretty confident that that's the case. So we win the piece. Maybe if I was a little more cunning, I'd look for a mate, but I see a free piece. I can take this rook, but then they play knight d3, and then I take on g5, and then they play knight takes b2. And it's knight against pawns, and I have a rook pawn, but it's not like it's already passed. I have to get through this b pawn. So probably I have to just play rook b1 check, king somewhere, and then king takes f4. I don't think it really could be any other way. That was easy. Not much of a puzzle, really. Bishop d3 leads to mate. Yeah, they don't have any checks or anything. It should be good. It was rook f5, so they had to sack. So we're down in exchange, but we have good pawns. It could just be, like, take the pawn on b5 and see what happens. But as we've seen, in positions like this, it's more likely that I have to trap this rook. So king c2 is probably the way to go. They don't have any squares. They could play rook d4, but then there's just rook takes d4. Nice. So at least I'm not making that mistake twice. Always nice to limit the mistakes. I could take the rook on c8, but I'm already down in exchange. Well, I don't think this is a big deal. Like, I can just take the rook. They're probably going to play like f3, in which case they threaten mate and the rook, so maybe it is a big deal. Yeah, I'll still be down material if I play like that. Maybe I should start with something like h4 just to deflect the queen, because they'll have to take it. I'm pretty confident. And then I could take on c8. Oh, if they take it, actually I can play knight g6 and win the queen. So h4, queen h5 is probably forced, in fact. And then I take c8, just it's a free rook. I don't think it even matters what happens after that. h4 looks like the best move. Yeah, don't really care about queen f6. Probably just take this. Just a quick scan for something better. I don't think I'm trapping their queen in any way. Like, knight d5 doesn't make sense, so I think I'm just going to take this. Yep. Welp. This looks like a scenario in which if I do nothing, they can play h5 and at least draw. Like, if they play h5 and I'm shuffling my king on like f6 and g7 because I have nowhere else to break through on this whole board, they'll play like king e2, f2, g2, king f3, and not interesting. So just by elimination, I probably have to take on on h4. That's already easy enough. And here, I could play h3, but it might pay to play a waiting move. Because if I play h3, king g3, king g5, king takes h3, I'm still down a pawn. I'm not getting over here and taking these. Even if I did, like, this pawn's really running down. So probably king g6, so that if they play like g5 to wait, I play h3 then, king g4. I'm sorry, king g3, because if they play king g4, I play h2. King g3, and then king takes g5. King takes h3, king f4, and they are a long way away from taking on b7. Meanwhile, I'm taking on d4, king c4, d4 wins the game. So, it should be this. They were pretty slow on the draw there, giving me the rating points. Okay, keep going. Queen b7 jumps out as a move to play. Like, they take on c7, I take back. Then I have rook against knight, it looks good. If they play like queen a4, I take on c8, they take on c2, I play queen d8. They can't control the promotion square. That looks fine. I don't think they can get a perpetual in any way. I don't see anything else that makes sense here. I think this is the only move that I should consider. Then I take and make a queen. So we don't have a queen here. You could play c2. And if they play rook c2, we play rook d1. And that's counterplay. And if they play queen c2, we take it. They play rook c2, then we play rook d1. And that's a rook and pawn endgame, which is a lot better than being down a queen. c2 does look kind of right. Rook takes d1, queen takes d1, c2 is not the same, because they'll play rook takes c2. So probably it has to happen now, or never. And here I could play rook f1 actually, make a queen. The difficulty with that could be maybe they're not going to take the rook. But that sounds pretty good, really. Rook f1, king e2, d1 queen wins. So rook f1, king g2, d1 queen, rook takes c8 check, king h7. The game still goes on. It's just an equal position. I don't know, maybe that's not right. Rook f1, king g2. Could play rook g1, king h3, or king f2 actually. Well, I don't see anything wrong with rook f1. And if I play rook c2, I lose. So I have to go for it. And that's it. Thank you for the follow, Almost GM on Twitch. Hope you go over the cusp into GM soon. Yeah, so here I was thinking, like, maybe they'll go here. We make a queen. They take this for free. That's sad. I go here. They'll probably trade queens. This looks pretty equal. Dead equal. But here it says rook c2 is winning, of course. Makes sense. So we just add that in-between move. Yeah, take the rook, exactly. That puzzle is kind of like, you can solve it by elimination, even if you don't see anything else. It's just, there's only a couple moves that you can play, not to lose on the spy. Okay, so we've got a hanging bishop here on e5. We're up in exchange. Feels good, man. I think we should be able to win something here. Like rook g7 kind of. could be a thing. Rook g7, bishop g7, queen c7 is threatening to win that piece. But it's not working. They have queen b2. So we could take twice after king g7, play queen c3. But then they have king g8 and king h7. So that also doesn't look winning. This could be a mate in 2 type thing where we play queen c7, bishop c7, rook g7, king h6, and the other rook on g6. Yeah, good old deflection. I'm just wondering if they have an in-between move to defend, like queen c7 and then what? So like we are up material, but our position's not like that amazing. Excuse me. But at the same time, I think recently that getting academic about situations like this doesn't really make me a better player, so I'm going to just go for it. Yeah, they have to play rook g8. And now queen takes a7, just like enjoy the material, maybe. We're going to have to defend our position, and that it's maybe not so pleasant, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong. Maybe queen f7 even. Queen f7 hitting h5. Like, we don't care about the a7 pawn so much. Queen f7, they have to defend with queen e8, probably, because king h6 is met by rook g6. King h7, rook takes g7. Actually, that's not true. King h7, then we could probably take on e6. I think queen f7 is promising enough to just play. You know, like, let's see what happens. Yeah. And here I thought rook g7 just wins. Like, rook takes, bishop takes, rook takes again, rook takes, queen takes e8. And there's no stalemate, no nothing. So this looks perfectly good. Unless there's a mate here that I'm missing. No, how could there be? It's just this. Yeah, that's right. Not too hard. What's my FIDE? I don't know off the top of my head. Probably not that high, because I play a lot of unrated people in FIDE events. But like, if I had to guess where I would end up if I played FIDE regularly against people with actual ratings, probably like 21, 2200. Something like that. Although I expect to get better as I start prioritizing chess again. I had to not really play chess during the lockdown, and I am scaling it up now because I'm on top of my nonsense. So looking forward to improving there. This looks interesting. Maybe I could take and play knight b3. Like, they can't guard c5, you know? And then we're taking on c5 again, and the knight on b4 is hanging. Just looks right. Yeah, I think this is it. Nothing to really see here. Gimme. And then we're going to take one of these pieces, or both of them. This looks like something with rook h4 or queen h3 or queen h2. Start bullying. But I should stand corrected in that they have queen h7, so maybe throw in e6 first. But even then they have queen h7. So there's some obnoxious queen moving. So rook g6 maybe, so that if they play queen h7 we have rook h6. And we're just threatening rook h6. So even if they play like f4 or something, don't care. We're taking everything. Yeah, I'm fairly convinced by rook g6. But it's weird to get a puzzle like this. It looks very, very normal to play this move. Can't believe I gained rating for that. Okay. Bishop d5 would be cool. Bishop g4 is probably more forcing. Queen takes and then queen d5. Then they have bishop e6, so maybe not. Bishop c4, after all, might be good. If they take, then we play queen d8 and win. And they don't have any way to guard d5. It's otherwise like pretty close material. This looks pretty convincing. Yeah, this is what I thought they would do. And queen d5 maybe, so that if they block with the bishop, we can just take it for free. Yeah. And winning. Rook g6 could be a thing. Could throw an f4 here. Just to mess up the pawn structure. Like, we don't really need this pawn anyway. If they can play f4, we're going to be playing down 2 pawns as it is, so... But at the same time, if I play f4, pawn takes f4, rook g6, they get king e5, and that could be useful somehow. At the same time, we're playing h6 immediately. And I don't see the rook getting back. In fact, the way that the rook gets back to stop this pawn is through a4. So f4 might be a little clever, even irrespective of that. And obviously there's this idea where I play f4, rook a4, rook g6, king f7, pawn takes e5, and then I have two pawns. And that's too many. So maybe it's just f4. Looking for counterplay here. Don't really see it. Oh man. I got it wrong. I've only gotten 2 wrong so far, and I think they were both rook and pawn scenarios. So what is this? Could be rook g8, maybe. Oh yeah, h6 straight away. That's forcing. I should have thought of that in the first place. That's a pretty obvious move, right? King g5, h7. Easy. Yeah, I missed that completely. Not good, but this is why I'm doing puzzles. So, sort of expected to miss things once in a while. Hopefully less as I go. Okay, so we're playing black here. I could play this king and pawn in game, play like h5, king takes, rook takes f5. I'm sorry, actually, if king takes, then I take on f3. So it's more like h5, king g3, h4, king g4, I guess. I'm going to be filming more content when I get over this stupid cough. h5, king g3, h4, king g4. Maybe at that point, rook c8. Because they are lacking places for the pieces. So after rook c8, I guess they would have to play rook h3. No, they don't have to. They could play what they want, actually. h5, king g3. I should probably just play rook takes f5. And it's still a rook and pawn endgame that has to be played, but actually they don't have anywhere to put the rook. That seems pretty convincing to me. Yeah, and this is an easy king and pawn endgame. So it's not a rook and pawn game. Not anymore. We have queen c4 here. That seems obviously good. Like we knight e3, and then they move their king. They have to put it on h3, I guess, because if they play king g1, then... Oh, we don't have rook f1. Anyway, there's got to be something better than queen c4, but it's on the menu. Rook f2 is definitely there. If they play king h3, then there's rook h2. If they play king h1, then rook f1 looks pretty good. Rook f1, king g2, and then queen takes c4. Oh, but then there's queen takes f8. Oh wait, no. The rook is already out. So that would maybe happen, but they'll have rook c8 and queen c7 type stuff. So should probably pay attention to that. After king h1, there should be rook takes h2. So that position still looks fine. So it's really rook f2, king g1 that's worth considering. I don't see anything really happening there. So it might just be rook f2, king g1, and then something seemingly unrelated. I don't think it's knight e3 right away, because they just have knight takes e3. Excuse me. It could be knight f2. But the problem with that is that queen f8 is checkmate almost. Mate in like 3. So still have this rook hanging problem. It just kind of suggests itself to play rook f2 to get rid of that problem. But other moves that make sense could be like queen f6 or queen e8, although that looks terribly passive. Like queen f6 more so. Idea of queen f1. As I'm looking at it, I don't really see a defense against queen f6. They blocked their ability to play queen c4 and queen b5 last move. So they'll probably sack for it. Yeah, I think this is good. Right, so they have to block. But we should still be winning here. Like queen f2, rook f2, king h3, rook d2. There's no mate anymore. Peter Baelish, welcome. Yeah, definitely it was queen f6, and I think this is the finisher. Easy. I don't know why this is rated to give me 14 points, but whatever, I don't care. Moving on. Not so hard. I thought that one would be like a 2-point puzzle, honestly. With this, I want to push these pawns, but I don't think there's any reason to get excited about it. Like, if I play d3, knight takes, it's a position. I'm not sure it's so good. Like, d3, knight takes, pawn takes, rook g2. Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, a little bit easier today. That wasn't deliberate, though. I was just hoping to see more endgame themes, because I'm going to be doing a series on endgames from the perspective of building an endgame repertoire. Whereas most people usually make an opening repertoire, I want to make an endgame repertoire. And so I just wanted to get some inspiration. But so far, yeah, they have been pretty easy puzzles. In fact, I've gained like 100 rating or something since I started, and it's only been like 40 minutes. So they're high rated puzzles, but they're not challenging really. Still, just good to kind of get some thinking about endgames, I suppose. I might switch if Chessable comes back online. They were not working before. It looks like they might be okay right now. Do some harder endgames. Another thing that would be cool would be if I could get in knight b3 or knight d3. Like knight b3, pawn takes, and then, I don't know, something. This knight's well placed. In fact, I think the knight being well placed is the crux of it. I should probably consider a move like a5. Because if they play knight d3 of their own volition, we could take it. Yeah, maybe we should take it. Yeah, take, and then take on g2. That looks like a pretty winning position. a5, knight d3. Yeah, I don't really have any issue with playing this. I think this is probably winning. But just a quick check, like rook b4 stuff, no, doesn't make sense. d3 stuff, no. Yeah, I think this has to be it. And here, do I have something besides knight d3? This is probably the moment if there is anything. Like rook a2 threatens mate. The thing is, they just have king b1, so I'm not too thrilled for it. Yeah, everything else just looks too slow. Just take this and then take on g2. I'm curious if they want me to take on g2 here. Yeah, that's their top move here. Chess Starter on YouTube, welcome. Okay, so king c5. We're playing white. Maybe I'll kick it up a notch after I hit like 2500 or 2600 on tactics here, just to give me some arbitrary point to break off. Queen g4 could be a thing, but like, what's the deal here? We have knight against bishop. This knight's pretty good, but our king's not safe, so we probably have to do something sharp. Queen g4 maybe. King e3 is the only move. Knight c4 could be good. The thing is, their queen's protected. They're not losing their queen in any of these lines. Queen g4, king e3. Knight c4, maybe. Then they have at least king d3. Yeah, check then fork, right? Something like that would be good. Queen g, or maybe queen f6, or no, queen f6 they could always block, right? Maybe queen h6. I don't see the fork yet. Maybe you're quicker than I am on this one. Queen h6. If they play king f5, I play queen h7, so that's good. Oh, actually, they don't have any real moves here. Queen h6, king g3 is the only move, and then there's queen h2, so it's actually mate or losing this bishop. That's convincing to me. Is there a mate here too? I don't think so. Yeah. That was pretty good. No fork though, not in this line. Maybe in a sub variation. Oh boy, a puzzle where I get to decide how to take this bishop with check. My favorite. I could take with the d-pawn, and then I think if they play king a1, they lose on the spot. We just promote to a donkey, and then they take it, and then we promote to a mule, and then that's it. So probably we take and they play king c1. I would like to play queen h6, but that's practically illegal. Can't do that in a state like this. So we could take king c1 and I don't know. I can't even consider something like queen g8 or queen f7 because even if I could take the rook on e6, then they have queen takes h7 mate, and that's not good. That's not kosher. We don't do that here. Maybe h5, so I could play queen h5. I'm sorry, queen h6. But that looks pretty weird because they could play queen f4 and stop it, or queen e5 and stop it, in fact, because that pins the queen. So that doesn't seem right. Yeah, I'm not sure I have any more resources there, in fact. So maybe it's b takes. And I thought they might have moves like king a1 here, or king a2 here, because I can promote, but it's problematic. Like, let's say I play b takes, they play king a2, I promote to a knight with check. It sounds pretty good, but then they take, and if I take, then they have rook e6, I'm sorry, rook e8, and I have to block with the queen, and I lose. That's not good. It all comes down at that point. So intuitively, I really don't think I have b takes c2. It just doesn't make sense to me. Rook takes c2 is the only other move that almost makes sense, but then there's rook e8. So I think I have to do this. This is the only thing that makes any sense. Seriously? It must be a pretty difficult puzzle if I only lost 4. Okay. I really thought they would play king a2. Let's see, what could this be? d2 came to mind. I would have felt like pretty good about this if I thought king c1 was the best move, because I thought maybe d2, king takes, e3, but even that's not right. Doesn't like d2. Oh, actually I can play this. I just didn't think hard enough. Can I not play this? I thought queen takes d2. Oh, the queen guards d2, so no. I was thinking I could make them play king takes and then like c1 or something. No, that's all wrong. So what is even the idea here? e3? And then d2? Just take back? What is this? What is going on here? This is a kind of ridiculous one. I could not guess several moves. Alright, so let's check this with the engine real quick. I don't think you guys can see the engine part. So it's saying b takes. Makes sense here. I thought they would play king a2. And it says to play just d2 and make a queen. That's that makes sense to me. Like, you know, we're getting a queen on c1 or d1. I don't think they can do anything more to our king. Okay, so I guess I just didn't really want to play a slow move, which has more to do with my preference than what the position demands, so that was not great. But even this is confusing. Excuse me. Here I was thinking d2 to try to get e3 in faster, but we have to play slowly, it says. We should do this. Yeah, we should do this. And the threat is d2, so they have to take it. This renews the threat, and they have to take it. Okay, and this is the end of the puzzle, but here, when we make the queen, they can take it, and then we have queen d4 check. This is kind of a puzzle in its own right. Like, we're deflecting the rook so there's no mate, so that we can play these kinds of shenanigans types of moves. Rook e8 still looks scary. Queen e5 still looks bad. So here, it says queen a3 or queen b5 or queen b3. Just everything has to come with check from now on. Queen b5 is its top move. And if we just go back, then... Wait, what? This is weird. It tells me to just go back and then play queen a3. So I guess this means that its top move was not actually queen b5. It's this one. Let's say they go here. Oh yeah, then queen c1's with check. Okay, this one was just like kind of hard for me, so let me quickly figure out why. I guess here it's just that we have a lot of pawns in the middle of the board and we should use them. And this is how we use them. Okay, I could probably get this again next time. Alright. We are promoting. You can go 1-2 and then they can't stop me. Problem being they can take this pawn, but we could take this and then take the bishop. So maybe this is not so bad. Yeah, I feel like I'd be winning that position, so here we go. Nice. We have a bishop, and I think we're about to get a queen. Check, and they can't come further. We play e3. If they ever check us, we take on c4, and we have compensation. So I don't see how this could be wrong. I don't think this second move is even really too guessy, because like e3, king f1, e2 check, king e1, bishop c3, you lose, so probably just do this. Now, next thing, do I want to take this pawn, or is it worth trying to insist on promoting? We can't lose anyway at this point. Like, we can take, and even if they play like king f3 to blockade, I still feel pretty okay about this. Like king b4, c4, c3. Really can't lose, because they have to sack their rook to get anything done. But we also have king d2. I think I should just take this pawn. Doesn't like it. Doesn't like any of them. Oh, bishop c3. That makes sense to me. I just didn't think about it and was trying to go fast. This makes sense because it's the same exact idea. They can't approach the pawn. And if they play like this, we are still just in time to win the game. Excuse me. So that's all pretty good. I just missed this move from going fast. Bishop b5 looks sensible here with the idea of b2 and b1. Bishop b5, king d2, b2, king c2. No. They're getting over here fast enough. Bishop b5. Well, the rook also doesn't have anywhere to go. So maybe it's king c7. They don't want to leave, so they'll play rook b4. We play c5. They play rook takes c4. We play b2. They can't play anything. Like, they play rook takes c5 check, king b6, and they can't play rook c1. The pawn's covering it. I think this is it. And I have to go here to stop rook b5. Alright, not terrible. This looks like I'm just pushing my E and G pawns and winning. It doesn't look complicated. Like, which one? Okay, actually, I should pay attention to which pawn. I think if I push the e pawn, it gives them an e passer, and that might matter. Whereas if I push the g pawn, it gives them a g passer, and I have more room maybe to stop that pawn because its promotion color is light. Just a general take there. In bullet, I'd probably just play g3. Oh, they do have a defending resource, actually. They have bishop b6. And I also might need room for my bishop to cover c8 in order to sabotage bishop b6. Or bishop b7. So there are things going on here. A nice situation would be like e3, bishop b6, e2. Just win. So probably if I play... Okay, here's the problem. If I play g3, they play pawn takes g3, I play e3, bishop b6, e2, bishop f2. And they actually do stop it in time. So I should play e3, pawn takes e3, g3, and then they have all their pieces in their way. Because I'm promoting on g1. And... okay, there's a little precision needed here. If I play e3, pawn takes e3, g3, they can play e4, and then after g2, bishop b6. And that controls g1. So it should be e3, pawn takes e3, bishop e4, preventing e4. And they can play whatever they want. It doesn't matter. I'm playing g3, g2, g1 after that. Because they have no other way to get back. They have to use b6, so... that's it. Easy. Okay, so this one, it would be nice if I could play b5. Checkmate. Not really checkmate, but you know. They're threatening queen d2. It's kind of major. We could probably spend a move to defend it. Maybe we have to. Instructions unclear for this one. Like queen f5, queen d2. I don't have king a3 because they have queen b4 and queen c1. Those moves are not friendly. So I probably cannot let it happen. King c2, they have queen e4 at least. King c1, they have like queen f1, queen g1. So not too clear, this one. Well, the answer is definitely not en passant. If we could, like, play queen to d5 in one move, that might be helpful. We could, like, trade everything and then start pushing our g-pawn, maybe. Or curl up in a ball and just, like, defend with our hands over our face. That's also an option. The thing is, I don't think I even know what to do if I got an extra move. Like, let's say I play king a3, queen takes d2. Oh, there's queen h1. Maybe that's it. Queen h1. King c7 is probably close to the only thing to do. You could play king d7 too. Queen d5, king e7. Even that doesn't look like much. If I get queen h1 by force, I'm not sure it's even helpful. Like queen h1, king d7, queen b7 check, king e8, I just don't know what that's doing. If the queen's on d2, they're getting queen b4 check, queen e1 check, queen d2 check, they've everything. Lots of checks. Checks, party, mix. Queen c8 would be checkmate. One of the first things I thought of here is that I can create 3 threats at once. The problem is just that they can perpetual right away. Like queen g8 threatens queen takes e6, threatens queen a8, and threatens queen c8. Those are all very strong threats, but queen takes d2 is check. And there's like nothing to argue with there. They have at least perpetual. Queen b4, queen c3, queen d2, queen e1. All the checks, all the time. Additionally, if I play queen g8, they probably could just play king d7 if they want to. The key here is to cheat. You should play queen to a8 and hope that they don't notice that that was not possible. You know, just kind of like go along the line between the 7th and the 8th rank and then just like kind of nudge it over onto a8. Seem very confident while you do it. It just might work. Also, you could just play b5, just say check and hope they don't notice that it's illegal. Fulen Yaha, welcome on YouTube. King c1. Yeah, king c1 came to my mind, but I don't know, maybe I'm just biased here because I know it's a tactics puzzle that there should be something that is happening after king c1. I don't know if I would call my position good where I have to just like stop the threat and then keep making moves. Because like if I play king c1, I don't feel like I'm in control. Let's say they play like queen f1, check. We only really have king c2 because if we play king b2, they at least have queen g2 and we have to try that all over again. So we would have to play king c2 to do something different and interesting. But that would allow at least d3 check. And now I feel like more I'm solving this for black, where I'm just trying to find interesting things for black to do. I don't know if it's good. Another thing, after king c2, maybe they could invade with queen a1, because white doesn't have an immediate threat that I can see. Even if they get queen h1, I don't know if it's winning. You know, like let's say king c1, queen f1, king c2, and then they play something like queen a1. Well, no, queen a1 actually doesn't allow it either. Yeah, like let's say they play something like queen to e2, we play queen h1, they play, I don't know, king c7. They don't even have to, they could play queen e4. But just not sure. Peter Baelish on Twitch has a good question. If I just take the pawn, I presume you mean the f5 pawn, and trade queens, can the pawns beat the rook? So after queen f5, queen d2, queen c2, first of all, I don't know if they have to trade. They could possibly just keep playing that position. You know, make a struggle, activate their rook. Our king is not safe at all. But even if they play queen c2, king c2, they have a protected passed pawn. Their king is very close to our pawns. I think that worst case scenario, they could sack the rook for 2 pawns. and then they're chilling. Like I think they're probably okay. Maybe they'd play king d7, and like, how do we really get the pawns rolling, you know? Our king's really far away. They're blocking everything. If we go too far from the d-pawn, the d-pawn's gonna go. I don't think it's surviving. Sorry, guys. I just don't know. Maybe we really do just have to like protect this bishop and keep playing. Seems kind of absurd for that to be a tactics puzzle, but here we are. I'm willing to consider Fulline's suggestion, king c1. King to c2 doesn't seem as likely, but it's also a candidate. So maybe we should just entertain, you know, maybe we should just give up the bishop somehow. How are we going to do it? I mean, not give it up, protect the bishop somehow. So we have king c2 and king c1. I don't think we can really consider queen a3, I'm sorry, king a3 or king a1 or king b1. So if we play king c2, for example, they have queen e4. That protects the pawn with check. And after king c1, it becomes the same. So probably after king c1, they have either queen g1 or queen f1. Maybe it's queen f1, let's pretend. King c2, d3 check. This doesn't look too good. Like king c3, queen a1 looks bothersome. King takes d3, queen d4 check. Kind of crossing my eyes just looking at this. I really don't know. This is kind of difficult. It's got to be something kind of dramatic, like something we didn't consider, because there's not even like a measurable difference between king c2 and king c1. Because if I play king c2, they could play d3. And after king takes d3, queen e4. And it looks very similar. Or they could just do nothing. You know, against both of these moves, king c1 and king c2, they could just do something completely unrelated. Like, let's say king c2, and they play... Or let's say king c1, queen f1, king c2. They could just play something like queen back to g2. And I don't think repeating the position in some way is the answer. It could be the answer, but it feels weird. Alright, maybe there's something that we're missing with queen g8. Queen g8, they play queen d2, king a3, queen c1, king a2. I don't know, it seems pretty simple. Alright, enough. I don't see the answer. I am willing to just play king c1. With the idea that like they can't, just don't allow them to play queen e4. Just keep playing chess. Okay. Is it king c2? Seriously? Okay. I'm curious about what the difference could be. So I should take this pawn, right? Like queen e4, king c3, queen d4, king c2. Just keep going. I don't know why they have to play d3 though. Like, what if they just play some other move? Alright, first of all, what's wrong with this? Let's see the engine thing. It says it's a draw with queen f1. Alright, so we accurately figured that out. Definitely a draw after queen f1. It says this is winning somehow. I still don't get it. So I thought they would play like maybe queen e4. It says rook e8, queen g6 is winning. I thought this move. Oh, I didn't really see queen d6. I was thinking more like this. Okay, but this doesn't change my feeling. Then we take this pawn. What if I go here? Maybe this? I don't know, this is kind of wild. Like, it's telling to play like king b2 here. And saying that white is winning. But there's just so much more to play here. It's like we're just playing an exchange down, and I feel like we're going for counterplay. It's not really even something. There's like not even anything to take away from this puzzle. I don't like it. Good guess though, Fullane on YouTube. At least we didn't play like the worst blunders. You know, we chose things that are equal instead of things that lose. Like, this is our starting position. If we play this, we're definitely losing. Checking with the engine, it says -5 and counting. -6 now. Yeah, it's just... They're stopping the pawns, basically. So at least we didn't like go that way. Maybe moving on now. Alright. Hopefully this one is more of like a real puzzle and not just like... hoping that they make a mistake. Alright, so we could take this. But probably we need to know for sure if we're winning here. G4 seems a lot more normal. Like G4, they can't play king takes G4 because we take the queen. So they might play king G6. We would probably play... Oh, we're in check. G4, king G6 check. Take on F6, king takes. Maybe G5 check, king E6, H5. I don't know, I'm not too convinced by this. I'm thinking something where, in the end, we get pawns here. And they have a king on E6, and all these guys are gone. So all these guys are gone. The king's on E6. And even if we get in the move G6, blocking this bishop to try to advance further, it's just not happening. So that doesn't look quite right. G4, king G6 check, takes, and then nothing. Really nothing. Could be queen f7, because then they can't take the e6 pawn, and they can't move their king, and they can't take the queen because we're promoting on f8. And if they play a waiting move after that, we could play g4 at that point maybe, and if they play king g6 check, we just move the king. Oh, king g6 is illegal. This looks pretty good. Alright, they're just going for it. Letting us win on the spot. Looks like Peter got it. Nice job. The rook's trapped. Just play knight b1. Really? They're gonna quiz me on if I play king f4 or king d4? Okay. We can do that. I was gonna say 2 can play that game, but you know, they're a computer. I can't quiz them. King d4, f4, pawn takes, king f5 looks like counterplay, so I guess I'll just choose this one. No counterplay. My king's stuck on the back rank. Boo-hoo. Alright, so if they take this pawn, they can stop something that's inside of this box. And my pawn is definitely in that box. So what's the deal? Maybe I have to go here. That takes 4 moves. They're doing this in 2 moves. Like, I go here, 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 here. They move maybe king c5, e5, b5, e4, king d4, king f4, b6, e3, b7, e2, b1, queen, check. Or b8, queen, check. King g8, king b6, e5, king c5. Not too promising, losing the e-pawn. Maybe king e8, king b6, king d7, king a6, king c6, and just force a... Actually, it's not even forcing a draw, because they... Maybe it's actually bad for me. King e8, king b6, king d7, king a6, king c6, g6, pawn takes g6, f7, and I lose. So they're actually breaking through. It's not something to be disregarded. Nothing even looks stalematey about this. I think it would take a long time for me to grind this to 25 or 2600, so might just switch and do a different problem set after this puzzle. At least a couple on another platform, we'll see. King e8, king b6, e5. That looks kind of on the right lines. Because after king a6, e4, king b5, e3, they're just too slow. King c4, e2. King e8, king b6, e5, they have to come back. King c5, I play king d7, if king d5 there. This could just be a repetition draw. Like king e8, king b6, king d7, king c5, and then king d8, king c6, king e8, king b6, king d7. Repetition. The reason being that if I play king e8, king b6, king d7, king a6, e5, king b5, e4, king c4. Actually, that's losing even. So maybe another tricky one here. I thought I saw something where they're moved too slow, but I think I was wrong. I was thinking something like this. But you can see, like, they're in the same neighborhood. Alright, maybe going back to my original idea. King g8, b6, king h7, king a6, king g6, king b5, king g5, something like that. Or maybe king g6. Alright, so this is my idea still. Go here. E4, king c4, but this time I'm gonna play king g6, so that if they play king d4, I have king f5. This is still not working because they have g6, and if I take with a pawn, they play f7. And if I take with a king, then they can take my pawn on e4. I wonder how that wasn't blocked. Yeah, probably shouldn't push the pawn that early. But I don't know what else to do. Like, if I play king g8, king b6, and then something else, they're going to just take on a6 and win. King b8. If I play, like, king e8, king b6, king d8, king a6, king c8, I don't think I even get to b8. I think it's just not working. It'd be nice if I could, like, have my king on, I don't know. I don't even know where I want it, really. Well, whatever the case may be, their last move was a blunder. Otherwise, this wouldn't be a black to play situation. So thinking a little bit meta here, they should probably have played king e5 or g6, allowing king takes e6. So they should have played one of those moves. So if we allow them to get a situation where their king's back on d6, this is probably not good for us. Like king g8, king d6, king h7, I don't know. If I play king e8, they could at least play king d6. And if I play king back to f8, they could play g6, pawn takes, and king takes e6. And that is probably fine for white. So for that reason alone, I feel like I should play something different. Oh, king g8, okay. King g8, I don't know, because after king g8, king b6, we still have this problem. They are 2 moves away from my pawn. I am 3 moves away from my pawn if I play e5. So I'm slow, and on top of that, even if I get my king to f5, they can play g6 and deflect my king. Maybe that's how I get a draw, though. Maybe I shouldn't be so judgmental of that situation. Just to illustrate an idea here. Maybe e5. No, too slow. So I have to play king h7 first. Allow them to play king a6. Then play e5. Allow them to take this. No, once I lose the queen side, I can't play for a draw like that. Maybe there's a resource here, like king. So I was thinking I could trap their king. Like this. And play for a draw like that. And my problem was that they can play g6, I take, they play f7. So is there something in that line, maybe? Maybe it's king e8, king b6, king d7. I'm still close enough to stop these pawns. They take here, I play e5. They take here. I play king e6. They play here. I don't know, this just looks so hopeless. Okay, I could actually bring my king to d6 and I'm still in striking distance of this pawn. So maybe it's here. King d6. They take here. Here. I don't know. I don't like any of this. I don't like any of the things that I see. Well, a5 is a move I haven't considered at all. Reason being that they can take it and nothing changes. I haven't really considered lines where I just sack the e-pawn for like basically no reason. But maybe that's what I have to do for a draw, like e5, king d5, king e8, king takes e5, king d7. But I don't think so. Like king d5, king c7, g6, takes, f7. None of that looks good at all. Looks like Rich is out there watching my stream. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. Just so that it's not like too dull for you guys, I am going to go for king g8. Okay. That was the first right move. So maybe reevaluate my situation. E5, king c5. Decided that wasn't happening, right? King h7, king takes, king g6, king takes b5, king takes g5 was something. But it seemed more likely that I would get something like this. Oh, sorry. Too many arrows. I would go e5, they take here. We rush in to protect this pawn. That's not how arrows work. Jeez. Okay. So they're in range to stop this pawn maybe, but they're pushing. We're pushing too. They're playing king d4. We're going here. They play b6. King f3 maybe to avoid this check in the future. They get a queen. We are not quite getting a queen. If that's the answer, I am quite surprised. Because they could at least sack their queen for this pawn and promote the a pawn. Alright, I'm going to just go for it because I don't know. Alright, that was not right. Sag. So I have to play this. So really I have to sack the pawn, huh? So this was the idea. But let's say they just take this pawn. Okay, actually they're losing this pawn. That's crazy. But why are they even coming back? Hold on. Okay. This was not as hard as I made it. I saw a lot of wrong ideas. Because here the idea is actually not too complicated. So I want to give up this pawn and get this pawn. And if I can do that, it means they can't go take this pawn. And in order for them to take my pawn, they have to go into Zugzwang and give me this pawn that I'm winning. That's not too hard to see. So I don't like that I got it wrong. But it's okay. Not impossible, but also frustrating to get wrong. Maybe conceptually, the way I should think about this is that if I lose this a6 pawn, I lose the game. It doesn't really matter how you slice it. Therefore, my only source of counterplay is either a fortress, and we saw that there's no fortress. For example, one line that I calculated was like this, maybe, where I'm trying to blockade. But whenever they get this situation, I'm in Zugzwang. Like, if I go this way, they promote. This is one of the lines that I told. It's not a good line, but, like, it shows I can't just, like, try to block their king forever. I can't go try to defend the a-pawn. I have to do something. So just based on that alone, like, I should ignore the queen side. So this was a good first guess, to play king g8. So I guess then the question is, like, how do I differentiate between saying I need to go take this pawn and start a race, or saying I need to start this pawn going and use it as a decoy? That I should probably link to the same idea. I don't want to let them take this pawn and come back. It's just not good. So I need to create a diversion immediately with e5. I think that's how I could rationalize this. Okay, let's see if I can't figure out how to switch my own scenes and pivot to some chessable endgame stuff. I have a new book that will hopefully work just fine. Alrighty. Let me pull it up. 1 second, guys. The browser type stuff never plays nice. I have to always reinstate it. So this is from 100 Endgames You Must Know workbook, which I just got. I finished 100 Endgames You Must Know and reviewed it a couple times. This is related to that. And I've never done it before, so maybe I'll do a few of these and then we can wrap up for the day. That could be cool. Let me just quickly close out this other thing. Okay. So what do we have here? Black to play, and I guess win the game when there's this pawn coming down. This looks like a situation where I should make them make a knight. Like king to f6, h7, king to g6, h8, make a queen, and in that case I can play rook to a7. If they play... actually they could play queen to h1 and stop this checkmate. Well, that's not good. Well, definitely can't lose here, so this is certainly like a please win situation. Could always just take the pawn if we're worried in a bullet game or something. I don't see anything that makes sense except for king c3 at the moment. Because that is a move I want to play. Because I'm not going to create threats if I can't have the king like right here, blocking them on these squares. So let's say my king's here. They have a queen. I wanted to go really far away to give mate, but then they can protect the mating square. I don't think this one's a draw. Full lane. I can see why you would think that, though, because it's hard if they get a queen against our rook. But some queen against rook positions, the rook is winning. This could be an exception. So we get here, they have a queen. Do we have a good move? Some moves that come to mind are like rook d2, because then they don't have queen h5 to cover queen e8. But my qualm with rook to e7 is that they have king f8, which is not really desirable. The reason I don't care about king f8 in other situations is like if I have the rook on, maybe like b7. If they play king f8, then because my king's on b6, I can win the queen for free. They don't have any way to guard it, so they'd have to make a queen move in response to the rook move. But that's not true with rook e7, because the rook's not guarded, and king f8 guards against rook to e8, which I don't like. At that point, like if they play king f8 and I move my rook again, then they can move their queen, and if I give a check, it's not even mate. They could play king to e7. That's not nice. Rook g7 in between is a good idea. King f8, actually that's a very good idea. King f6, h7, rook g7 check, king f8, rook somewhere else. And they don't have time to make a queen. They have to make a knight. So that is the answer. Good eye. Now here, I should obviously move my rook over here and stalemate, right? That's there's some kind of rule that whenever you get a really good position after a lot of hard work, you have to spoil it. Shadow Sprite thought I was Technoblade. I'm sure we have some superficial similarities. Okay, I think I could put my rook anywhere here. Anywhere but here. Seriously. And that's mate. They didn't even get a chance to make something. Cool. Some of these books come off in a really weird way with the new Move Trainer format. Like, there was no text, no nothing that showed on the last example, and it says, or how about the following example? Like, oh, okay, that's a little jarring. I just started this book, and you're starting with a word like or. It's like, didn't your teacher tell you not to start sentences with and or in grade school? Jeez, to let anyone write a book these days. I'm sure it would make more sense on paper. Okay, so I remember this. This is the game where Gelfand messed up his World Championship match, and people have ruthlessly lampooned him for it since then. Sag. In this situation, they can't take the pawn, so we could do something like this. Like, they take, we play rook a6. But that would give them a moment to play this one. And we don't have h7 because they can take. That's not good. I remember this, but I still have to solve it freshly, so it's good that I'm looking at it. h7 is also quite reasonable. The reason I'm not immediately just saying h7 is that it allows them to play king b7. And that looks sort of Ventura-y, which is a draw. We don't want that. It'd be nice if we could get rook a8 somehow, but we don't have time. Rook c8 check doesn't make any sense. Rich has an idea to play king g4. I wonder if that helps. Imagine if we could just do it in one move, like king's on g4 now. Congratulations. I think they would play rook h1. And I guess what we want to do is get our king over here to h7. So I'm inclined to think that's true. So the only thing to check is if this is some kind of race, like king g3, maybe... Actually, they cannot play any king moves to come closer, I don't think. If they go here, now we have rook a8. Or, no. Do we have rook a8? Should be able to win with the rook on the side of the pawn. So yeah, I think they cannot really come closer. If we go here and they play king d7, then we have king g4, rook h1, king g5, king e7, king g6, and we make it in time. That looks right. Hey Shai, welcome. Thanks for dropping in, even if it's just for a second. I was actually wondering if the new emoji commands work. So if anyone wants to try that, how do they? Do they go like this? Just trying to figure out. So I added some emotes for YouTube. I don't know how to use them yet, though. If you guys know how to use those things, feel free to spam emotes in the chat. Okay, so I think King G3 is working. Let's just go for it. King B7 with the idea that I can't play Rook A8 anymore. They want to keep their king on these two squares and keep their rook on like H1, but really it's just much too slow. Okay, that was pretty easy. So good spot, Rich. There's a lot of text here. I don't think we need to really get into that. It's probably interesting to read, but I don't know. All right, so this one's like how to use the book. I've been using books for a really long time, so I think that I'm probably okay. I'll skip this one. I finished the chapter, yay! Woohoo! Okay. Example A. We only have 26 examples in this book. Yeah, I've never seen someone start with example A. Like I said, they'll let anyone write a book these days. Is this even a diagram? This is not even a puzzle. I'm confused. Yeah, that was bizarre. Hold on. What is up with this book? Okay, finally a puzzle. Black wins by playing something. So this king's on the wrong side. They would like to play king here, bishop here. But we have probably rook d7, because that's mate. Are they really starting out with like a double attack? I almost can't believe it. If they play bishop c7, we can just take it. There's no stalemate stuff. Yeah, I think I'm just winning in one move. Okay. I didn't know this would be even less interesting than the last one, everyone. Okay, so go a little fast for these. Okay, that was easy. Let's see if we can get to an interesting position. Black draws by playing. Okay, this pawn's coming down the board. The way it keeps flipping is a little disconcerting. Probably just king g8. Yeah, king g8. Block that up. Draw. Does white have time to capture the g4 pawn is the question. So the rule with this one is pretty easy. If you can close to within 2 files of the king, you're probably fine. Like take, blah blah blah. They go here, we go here, they take this, we go here, they come back, we lose. Well, actually they should go here. Then we go here, they go here, and we don't make it to the corner. So the answer is no, we don't have time to capture the g4 pawn. But that also raises the question, what do we do if we can't take the pawn? Like a6. If they move the bishop, then we could probably take the pawn. Let's imagine that. Maybe we go here. They play like bishop c8, I don't know. Take. If they take on a6, now maybe we can run our king back quickly enough. It's the wrong color corner for this bishop. So probably they would take now. We take. And after king b6, they're going to take this pawn. But then we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moves here. And they have to play 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think we're good. So we should play this one. Alternative. Rage. Pure rage. Oh, actually, there's maybe another resource here. We could take it and then not take the bishop. We could take and then just play king e3. They play king c. Well, how are they going to win this pawn if they don't play king b5, right? So, yeah, probably we could just take this and then come over here. Oh, they want us to take it. Sag. Alternatives. I thought they were going to go here. Here. Oh, actually, we are in time. I think I must have miscounted earlier. But yeah, we found 2 other ways to make a draw, so I'm still pretty satisfied here. Sometimes when I hit alternatives too many times, I get frustrated and I just don't want to do it anymore. Just want to move on. Okay, what have we got? Black to play. I should probably take the queen because I have no other legal move. Yes, I got points for that. Yeah. Alright, so if I go here, I lose the pawn. So I have to play king b6. They go here. Yeah, I'm good. Brr. Don't let the king in. That one's pretty easy. Can white save the game? Yeah, white can save the game, totally. No problem. I got this. Oh, that's the whole puzzle? I thought I was going to have to play it out. The whole shebang is that if you go here, I come out in the middle of the board, and now it's hard for you to actually get me. And if you go over here, I can play the knight back. And if you come here, I'm going to check you again. I'm just going to like shuffle here if I have to. And eventually I'll try to play like, I don't know, bring my knight or something. Just stay on the back rank. If you go far away, you'll get into a double attack eventually. Their main line is with rook h4. And then probably something like rook b4. No, rook e4 is good. King f5. Oh yeah, so the reason they're showing this line instead of something with a double attack is you can actually go trap the knight. Once that ends up on a square like g2, you can see the rook cuts it everywhere, and now you just have to go get it. And that's obviously winning. So that's a good technique to know off the top of your head. Bishop f5 and bishop c4. I have to decide. Ooh. Well, I'm pretty sure my defensive idea is to go here and here. So I don't know why I would want to play bishop c4. So I guess I'll play bishop f5. Oh, I was wrong. Boo. I thought I would just play like this. Oh, okay, I missed this. I was thinking that the only idea they really have is to like check me on this line, but they have a double attack to accomplish the same thing. So that was me trying to operate on principles for a second, and that wasn't good. So being a little more concrete, I should play this move. If they give me a check, I'm gonna just step out, so that's fine. And I think that I want to play king h8. Idea being that if they play king f8, they don't have this like rook g7 and then double attack thing. So I'm going to play... Hold on. I actually can't play bishop d3. So I probably have to wait for a little while. Like bishop to a2. It's an alternative. That's annoying. Not what I wanted to hear. Alternative again. Curse you. It's the curse of the alternatives. Once again. Alright. King h8. Alrighty. I think I'm gonna wind down here because I'm losing my voice pretty fast. But thanks for tuning in, you guys, and I'll do more like this hopefully tomorrow or soon. And in the meanwhile, if you want to check out other things, I've been putting out some recorded content pretty regularly on YouTube, so feel free to head over there and see it. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for tuning in.